The CRCAS system is a system that was designed to make going through the caucus and assembly process easier for county parties and other districts such as House districts, Senate districts, judicial districts, and congressional districts. There are a lot of logistics and paperwork and data entry that goes along with this entire caucus and assembly process, and the CRCAS system makes it a little bit easier, hopefully a lot easier. Now, there's more to this process that happens after caucus, and that will be covered in future videos. This video will cover the first steps of the process, which is setting up your county or district, allocating delegates, and in the case of counties, printing caucus paperwork. For county parties, the benefit of doing this is that it will allow Republicans across the state to find their caucus locations, your caucus locations, using the state party's facility, caucus.cologop.org. It will also generate your caucus paperwork, which can amount to hundreds or thousands of pages of paperwork for the larger counties. So that'll make your life a lot easier. For the higher district assemblies, such as House, Senate, judicial, and congressional districts, the benefit of CRCAS is that you will be able to allocate delegates to the component counties that make up your district and enter that into the system so that those counties can then generate their paperwork as well and elect delegates accordingly. So it streamlines the whole process. Now, by now, you should have received a username and password for the system from the state party. So you'll log in using your username and password. Logging in will take you to a screen that looks somewhat like this. It'll look a little bit different. Each county is a little bit different in terms of which districts are in it. And certainly if you're running a House, Senate, judicial, or congressional district, your screen's going to look a lot simpler. But we're going to go through the basic steps that are common to all of those. In this case, I'm doing the demo with Douglas County. And so, for example, it says Douglas setup and Douglas configuration. However, your screen will have your county party's name or your House district, and just the important thing is to just sort of go through the same process. So in this case, we'll click on the configuration, the Douglas configuration link. This allows us to set up your county party or your House district, Senate district, judicial district, congressional. For county parties only, you need to enter the date and time of your caucus. Make sure that when you enter the time that you're entering it in military time, so 7 p.m. is 19:00. You also need to enter your assembly date, whenever that may be, and the location for your assembly. So let's just say we're having this at any high school. That's the name of the high school at 123 Main Street in Highlands Ranch, 80126. Now, these next two options, the caucus and assembly process and at-large from county, that only applies to county organizations. So if you're running a House, Senate, congressional, or judicial district, you will not see these two options. For county parties, you need to select how you elect your delegates to higher assembly. Your cheat sheet is right here off to the right. So your options are basically, you can elect from caucus. That would mean that at each precinct caucus, each precinct is electing some number of delegates that will go to the state assembly, some number of delegates that will go to the House district assembly, and so on. And so if that's the way your county operates, then you would elect from caucus. Another option is elect from district. Now, this is the way it's done in Douglas County, and I think other counties as well, and that is at the precinct caucuses, you only elect delegates to the county assembly. But then at the county assembly, the various precincts will meet together in districts in order to elect from amongst themselves those delegates to the state and higher assemblies. So if you're doing it that way, then you would elect from district. And if you elect only at the county assembly, that means that you don't elect anybody at the precinct caucuses to go to state assembly, and you also don't do little mini districts at the county assembly, but rather at the county assembly, you elect at large all of your delegates. Then you would elect only at county assembly. So for the purpose of this demo, we're going to do elect from district, which is what happens at Douglas County. And we'll move on to the next step. At large from county, this would also be checked if you elect some of your delegates at the county assembly. So in Douglas County, we elect all of our delegates to the higher assemblies in our individual districts. But if you have a county that does that and elects some additional delegates at large at the county assembly, then you would check this box. Finally, both for county assemblies and all other types of assemblies, you have the option of at large have alternates. And that's, without getting too far into the weeds, most of the time you should leave this blank unless your bylaws specifically say that your at-large delegates have alternates. Once you've captured all of this, we will save district configuration and go on to the next step. All right, once it's been saved, we will go to, in this case, the next step. Now this link here, GOP districts, this will only exist if you had selected elect from district here. So since we did, we have to go into GOP districts. And what this is telling us is that in Douglas County, we have 43 districts that are at the county level, and each district is made of a number of precincts. So in this case, we already have captured 42 of the districts, but there's one more to go, which is District 43. So we will create a new GOP district and we'll name it 43. And into that, we will enter the precinct numbers, the full precinct numbers, 10-digit precinct numbers that make up that district. And we will save it. Now, when we go back to this list, we can see that we have all 43 districts. So this, again, only applies if you are electing from district in your configuration. If you are not doing that, then you won't have to fill in the screen. But if you are, you will have to fill out and define each of your districts and which precincts are a part of it. After you've configured your districts, if you need to, then the next step is to go to county delegates. Again, if you are running a multi-county district, then what you'll see here is a list of precincts, but if you're running a multi-county district, you'll actually see a list of the county names that make up your district. So the process is the same. It's just that here in the county level, we're assigning delegates to precincts. And if you're doing it at a congressional, judicial, Senate district, or House district, then you'll be assigning delegates to counties. The first thing you need to do is decide how many delegates you will have at your assembly. Keep in mind that for every delegate, you potentially have one alternate. Not all of the alternates will generally actually attend, but you still want to plan for a good number of them showing up. So if in Douglas County, let's say we're going to have 500 delegates. And before we proceed, we need to make sure the system knows which precincts have at-large delegates. Now, an at-large delegate would be someone who is automatically a delegate to, and then the county assembly. For example, perhaps in Douglas County, district captains are automatically delegates to the county assembly. So if we have a district captain in precinct 101, we would enter 1. And then let's say that in precinct 245, we have a chairman that's automatically a delegate. So we would enter 1 there. And then let's just say in precinct 336, we have a secretary that's automatically a delegate as well as a district captain. So we have 2. So we would enter 2. We're just going to go that far with this example, but you would need to do that for every at-large delegate in your organization. The total will appear right here at total at large. This is showing that of the total 500 delegates that we decided we're going to have, 4 of them are at large, and the remaining 496 need to be distributed amongst the other precincts. In Douglas County, we have a situation, and I think some other counties do as well, where there may be a minimum number of delegates that the bylaws require per precinct. In Douglas County, that's 2. So the minimum number of delegates is 2. And now that we've configured that, the system can automatically allocate the rest. Now, we do that by pressing the Allocate Automatically button. You'll get a confirmation window that pops up, and you'll see that all the precincts now have allocated delegates. The delegate allocation is based on the number of votes that precinct cast for the top line Republican in the last general election. So in this case, the last general election was 2022. The top line Republican was Heidi Ganahl. So each precinct receives a number of delegates that is proportional to the number of votes that precinct cast for Ganal. However, in this case, the minimum is 2 delegates. So even if they did very poorly, they automatically get at least 2. And you can see that we've captured that for all of the precincts. And we can then go ahead and click and save. Now, when you're completed the allocation and you're not going to make any more adjustments, the final thing you need to do is come in here and check this box. Delegate allocation is final. Now, don't do this until you're sure you have everything right. But when you are finally done, before proceeding to the next step, you would click the checkbox and don't forget to press save. That tells the system that this is locked in. Now, the same process actually occurs now for each of the remaining districts. For example, state delegates. Now, if you recall, in Douglas County, we had those GOP districts that we set up above. So what we have here is not a list of precincts, it's a list of districts, the 43 districts that Douglas County has. The 318 is pre-populated. We can't change that because the state party has assigned 318 delegates to Douglas County. So that's what we're working with. Same process as before. If we have like a district captain in District 1, that's at large, it's automatically going to the state assembly, we would do that. If in District 16 we have maybe a chairman and a district captain, then we would have 2. And then maybe over here in District 31, we just have the secretary. So that would be 1. So again, you have to set up all of your at-large delegates. And when you're done with that, you can do the exact same thing as before, allocate automatically. And the delegate allocation has been assigned to each of these GOP districts, again, proportionally based on the votes for Heidi Ganal. When you're done, press Save District, and you're good to go. You'll do the same thing with CD4. Just for the sake of going quickly, we're not going to, we'll just do that. We'll just do 2, 1, 1, just to put something in there. We're going to allocate automatically. Save it. Same thing with CD6 because Douglas County has 2 congressional districts. Here is pretty straightforward. All the delegates are going to the single district that's in CD6. Come to SD2. Now, SD2, Senate District 2, is a single county district. That means it's all of Senate District 2 is entirely within Douglas County. When that's the case, when a district is entirely contained within your county, you don't need to do any allocation because every delegate that's elected to the county assembly is automatically a delegate to, in this case, Senate District 2, if they live in Senate District 2. So no work is necessary there. So you'll just move on down these links. SD4, that's a multi-county district. SD4 isn't just Douglas County, it includes other counties. So once again, we have to allocate automatically. Save it. And you'll just work your way down. SD27, same thing, allocate it, save it. SD30 is another one of the single county districts entirely within the county, so we don't have to do anything. HD39 also is the same. 43 is also a single county. 44 is also single county. 45 is also single county. 61 is another one that spans counties, so we have to allocate. Save it. And then JD23 and save it. So at this point, you've allocated delegates to each of the precincts and the GOP districts, and you're basically ready to go to the next step. The next step is caucus setup. Now, what we have here are caucus venues. A venue, as you can see here, is essentially a location where you will hold one or more precinct caucuses. As we can see here, we have a number of schools. We'll go ahead and create a new venue for the sake of example and just call it any high school again. Main Street. And primary contact name, all this information about primary contacts and alternate contacts. This information is optional, but it is recommended that you can, for example, if you have a district captain or someone who's in charge of being the contact for a given caucus location, it's useful to you to put this information in there. When you have done so, you can press save. Again, it's not required. go back to CRCAS Location Manager, and now you can see we've now added this any high school. You'll want to capture all of your different CRCAS locations first. After that, you will go to precinct information. Now, this hopefully doesn't look too intimidating. This is basically just a place where we say where each precinct is meeting. So in this case, we're looking at precinct 101, and we're going to say that they meet at any high school right here on the list. And it turns green to indicate that you've said it. If you know a specific room number at that location where that precinct will be meeting, perhaps room number 215, you can type it in there. If you don't have that information or you don't have it yet, you can leave it blank. But the more information you provide, the easier it will be for Republicans that are attending to find where they're going on caucus day. However, make sure if you provide that information that it's right, because the last thing you want to do is tell people to go to room 215 if in fact that precinct's meeting in room 220. So it's better to leave it blank if you don't know or you're not sure, but if you do know, you want to go ahead and type that in. And you'll want to do that for each of the precincts. So that's why you first capture the caucus locations on the previous screen, and then you just assign each precinct to those caucus locations. Now, the final step before caucus is to print caucus paperwork. Again, this is one of the items that without this system, it's a lot of work. But this makes it pretty easy. Just once you've captured all the information, you have to have captured your delegate information. You have to have captured your caucus venues and your precinct information. Then you may print caucus paperwork. Generally, what you'll want to do is do it for the entire county. And usually these default settings are okay. If you want to make any changes, you can. You can take a look at those options and see what's available. But generally, you can just press generate caucus paperwork. Now, for the sake of this example, and to not generate thousands of pages, we'll just do for precinct 101, we'll generate the caucus paperwork. And what you get is a PDF. In this case, you can see there's 23 pages to this one precinct. So here we're looking at the first page. We might as well make it so we can fit it all on the page. We'll go to the next page. This page right here is meant to be taped onto the cover of like a manila envelope, and then all the other paperwork can go into that manila envelope. And then when you're distributing this information to precinct people or district captains, whoever's going to run the caucus, you can you'll know that this is precinct 101, and it's easy to get it around. It tells you here that this precinct is voting for 4 delegates on the county assembly delegate ballot. The top 2 vote getters are delegates, and the next 2 are alternates. These are just general instructions for the people running caucus. Now we have here is just a couple of pages. This was optional based on those options on the previous page. This is meant to just be a sign that you can tape perhaps to the door of the caucus room, or you might be able to put it on hallways and draw some arrows so the people that are looking for precinct 101 can find it. These are your general sign-in sheets. The idea being that for each voter, they would put their initials here to say that they were there. You would put down their voter ID of the voter that's participating. We'll have a list of those below. Their name, go ahead and print it, their address, zip, email address, and phone number. And if they would like to be an election judge, then they should check this box. By doing this, you'll have a list of everybody who attended caucus. So as you can see, we have multiple pages because hopefully we have enough people that need all that. We then have the official caucus minutes and election results. This single page is where you capture who ran the meeting, who was elected as precinct committee people, and who were elected as delegates. Right here, caucus chairman, caucus secretary, and caucus treasurer, this indicates who is running the meeting. So whoever's running the meeting should put their names here, as well as their voter IDs over here. And then whoever was elected as precinct committee people, they should put their names here and their voter IDs here. And the same general process for the delegates. As you can see, we have in this precinct 2 delegates and 2 alternates. So same thing, voter initials go here. The voter ID of who was elected as the first delegate goes here. Their name goes here. If they are pledged to a presidential candidate, then you should put the letter P in here that indicates pledged, and then indicate which presidential candidate they are pledged to. indicate how many votes that delegate received, and then you can indicate whether or not they're interested in going to the state assembly, CD4, HD39, or whatever House district they might be in. Just check the box if they are interested in being candidates to go to those higher assemblies. Then following that, we basically just have a list of all the registered Republicans that are eligible to participate. This is broken down into two sections. The first section is letters A through K, so last names starting with A all the way through K. So you can see here, any given person will have the voter ID. That's so that you can copy the voter ID onto the attendance sheet or to the delegate sheet. Their name, the address to confirm we're talking about the right people. This is their gender and the year they were born. Again, to verify, sometimes you might have two John Smiths that live at the same address, but one might be junior or whatever. So you can sort of differentiate based on their birth year. That just goes through the rest of it. You can see here's the package for L through Z. The purpose of that is you might have two people checking people in. So you could have one person in charge of the A through K line and another person in charge of the L through Z line. And that just takes you through the end of the list. So that's 23 pages right there. Now, again, in a larger county, you might have hundreds or thousands of pages. If that's the case, the recommended approach would be to save this PDF file as a file and then send it to some print shop, FedEx, whatever it might be, and have them print it out on their printers much faster and using less toner, less ink than you would at home. And that basically takes you through the entire process of generating the paperwork. Once you generate all that paperwork for all the precincts, you will need to separate those into individual precinct packets. So again, if you have 100 precincts and you have thousands of pages, you're going to need to thumb through that and get those pages separated into precinct packets that go to each precinct. In the larger counties, it's recommended that you get a bunch of volunteers to help you to do that because it's a lot of papers that need to be organized together. That will get you through printing caucus paperwork, and that will be the end of this video. After caucus, the next step will be to capture the delegates and the people who attended caucus so that you can be prepared for the county assembly, but that will be the next video.